CNBC Africa is extending its reach into Africa with crossings to Lagos State. And joining us now live from Nigeria is the governor of Lagos State itself, Babatunde Fashola, to chat more about the prospects for the region. Thanks so much, Governor, for joining us this afternoon. Well, Lagos State recently announced an 89% implementation of the 2012 budget. That's the highest implementation we've seen since the inception of the current administration in 2007. And that in part reflecting the kind of commitment we have from state government to provide an enabling environment for business and to improve the lives of the people of Lagos. What do you deem to be the biggest achievement of 2012 so far?
Well, I think that the biggest achievement for 2012 has been our ability to consolidate on the gains that we have made in the past, to deepen access of our people to services, road networks, healthcare, education, opportunities for jobs, and to continue to reinforce the importance of budgeting in a constitutional democracy as a critical tool for changing people's lives. When
it comes to that change, of course, focus is on power, agriculture, transportation and housing as well. These are seen as the key focus areas, and it's largely in line with the key priorities of the federal government as well. It seems obvious that collaboration is, of course, what's needed to get things going in on this front. To what extent is the state integrating its plans with those of federal government, Governor?
Yeah, our decision to focus on power, agriculture, transportation and housing was in response to the feedback we were getting, the compelling needs to create jobs beyond banking and telecoms. And we thought that those sectors were not only interdependent, but they were independently enabling to create total growth in the economy. We are seeing growth projections in Africa, indeed in Nigeria, but they are not yet deep down percolating to our people. And we think that power will be a critical enabler. As you might be aware, there's a national power sector reform policy, and the underpinning thinking behind it to allow private sector to drive the provision of public utility like power is something we ally with. In spite of the challenges of implementation, our government is already positioning itself to enable that policy come to fruition, work with the successful bidders to deepen access to power. But at the moment, we have set up a Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in the state to develop an energy and power master plan for us. We're focusing on public lighting, street lighting. At this moment, we have completed 2 independent power plants, one to power provision of public water. Now we are able to produce about 210 million gallons of water per day, which is about 50% more of what we used to produce with suboptimal power.
So, Governor, these are the strides that are being made. What are some of the challenges and the possible hurdles you face moving now forward into 2013?
Well, the reason that we exist as a government is to deal with challenges, so they exist in their full measure. But I think the point to make first is that capacity building is critical. Knowledge, education, skilled engineers, skilled teachers to produce those engineers, and to develop the human capital that will deliver all of the services that will make life sustainable and living for our people are some of the challenges that we are dealing with. We're seeing gradual improvement in our school results, but there's still a lot more to do. There is a need for legislative reform, for example, in the area of transportation. We have enacted a new traffic law that focuses on safety of lives and properties on our roads. Gains have been made, for example, in healthcare, and we now see lives being lost in avoidable circumstances like traffic accidents. So there's a total reform there, looking at old legislation that do not serve any deterrent purpose anymore. introducing policies that allow traffic officers to breathalyze road users, introducing policies that make it an offense to use your telephone while driving, or to drive under the influence of drugs and alcohol, and those kind of things, and to make seatbelt use a compulsory habit in this part, so that we can really save lives and prolong lives and reduce accidents and deformities that come with road traffic accidents.
Of course,
we also have, of course, the challenge.
Continue.
Yes, please. Well, we also, of course, have the challenge of funding. What we've seen is that there's a deficit of infrastructure that needs to be ramped up to meet the growing population of Lagos, and the funds are not coming in the sufficient quantity to meet the demands and the expectations that we have. As a result, apart from our aggressive tax generation policy, we have had to resort to public borrowing by issuance of bonds, and of course, attempt to access multilateral funding like from agencies like the World Bank and the French Development Agency and the like. We've seen also that our budget performs as much as the revenue that we have. So it's no longer a function of a lack of capacity to implement, but rather the capacity to finance on a sustainable basis.
Having said all of that, Governor, I mean, Lagos is already noted as the state with the, with the highest internally generated revenues in the country. And unlike most of the other states, it depends less on its share of Nigeria's oil revenue. So speak to us about that recent drive to improve tax collection specifically, so that you do have access to funding.
Well, the hype about our generation of taxes does not take into consideration the responsibilities that we also have. On the population of over 21 million people that we have, we still have just about 3 million people of an anticipated taxable population of 8 million paying taxes. So there are still about 5 million people who are not within that tax net who should be. And when you look at the growth projections for the state, if you take a minimum of 3% only, you will see the challenges that we have to face. 21 million people growing at 3%, new babies being born, new marriages being celebrated, people buying property and building. And so the demand really outstrips the resource to cope with it at this point.
Looking at driving revenue, broader than that, I mean, what can you tell us about the emergence of Lagos State as an oil-producing state? And speak to us a little bit, Governor, about the investment opportunities that are available in this regard.
Well, I think that the prospects of Lagos as an oil-producing state remain positive. Large hydrocarbon deposits have been found offshore Lagos, but at the moment we are not benefiting from the derivative component of being an oil-producing state because our oil is offshore. And there's a 200-meter isobar from the sea by which you, if your oil is onshore, like in the Delta region, you will benefit. But I think that is a future that lies ahead of us. But we continuously look to a life without oil, and a life where ultimately, if the proceeds of oil come, it can only add to rather than add to our development instead of compounding our development.
How do you make sure that it does,
though? As I
because
said, we have a ministry.
We've seen before resources that do come from those revenues are possibly not being used to the best, or to the best that it could be. So how are you working to mitigate against some of that risk?
Well, perhaps this explains why we have a Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources to develop an energy, oil and gas master plan for Lagos. Secondly, as a team, we have seen globally the story of the benefits of extractive wealth and how, if it is not invested wisely, becomes a burden rather than a benefit. And I have always likened it to an inheritance. If you inherit an estate and you do not manage it well, you do not invest it well, it is a road to a bad life. So, and there are very worthy of examples that we can emulate of how extractive resources have been invested to build other sectors, to build education, to build human capital, which is the most important resource, and also to build new sectors of an economy like tourism, agriculture, and so on and so forth. And I think that the roadmap to that is clear for the willing mind and the convinced mind. And our minds in Lagos are convinced that if there were such benefits in the future, they will go into the right places. And what we've done, of course, with much more hard-earned money, which is taxpayers' money, which is difficult to collect, shows that if we have easier money, which is what extractive money suggests that it can be, we would invest it wisely and sensibly.
Broadly, Governor, your outlook moving into 2013?
Say again, please.
Just your outlook for 2013 moving forward, your view there?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
If you could give us a heads up, Governor, in terms of your expectations for 2013 and the upcoming budget.
Oh, the outcome of the 2013 budget. Well, if I hear you correctly, first of all, the threshold we set for ourselves for budget implementation is 90%. Last year, we were at 89. For us, it is not a pass mark yet. And therefore, we have to drill down and work harder, and that process has already begun. Our team has gone on a retreat. We are on inspection of projects across the state to see what work needs to be done. So we're in contact with our responsibilities on a first-hand and real-life basis. And this will form the basis of our collective planning and implementation program down the line to hopefully achieve the 90% benchmark when we can beat our chest and say we met the goal.